What is up, Hawk fans? I am here today to discuss Iowa's 97-87 overtime victory over the Nebraska Cornhuskers. This was a much-needed game. I even called it a must-win game for the Iowa Hawkeyes because it absolutely was. After their one of the worst losses in the Fran McCaffrey era on the road against Wisconsin, Iowa needed this game. They have kind of, for the last couple of weeks, without a quad one victory, they've kind of hung between, in the net rankings and Ken Pom rankings, somewhere between 40 and 60, okay? Either like right on the cusp of being an NCAA tournament team or just out of reach of the NCAA tournament. This was a game that was winnable. A good quality game against a quality opponent. Nebraska has definitely risen a few spots. They came into this game, I think, 32nd in the net. I mean, they were just right outside of this being a quad one game. So it was a must win. This game went back and forth. Iowa was, I would say, the aggressor in the first couple of minutes of the game. All the way up until, I would say, roughly the 7-minute mark in the first half. And then from that point, well, let me go back. Josh Dix started hot, which I'm going to get back to Josh Dix, okay, because I am so vindicated about him. But it went back and forth. From that point till about, I would say, the 10-minute mark of the second half, Nebraska won that time frame, which was definitely a large portion of the game. Then we get to the point under 10-minute mark. Peyton Sandfort decides to get hot. By the way, this game was very, very close from getting out of reach. And if you're a Nebraska fan, it's tough to not feel like you let this one go. I mean, I know if I was an Iowa fan and Iowa had done what Nebraska did, I would feel like Iowa let this game slip. In fact, this is kind of what Iowa did against Iowa State. What Nebraska did is pretty much the same as what Iowa did against Iowa State. They didn't close the door. They were flirting with, 15 plus point advantage. I mean, it was on the precipice at times. Iowa needed to utilize timeouts. I mean, there were a few plays back to back to back there where Iowa turned it over, just making dumb decisions, bad turnovers, and this was hinging on being a blowout. It really was, especially at home. I mean, had that actually happened, I would have been very concerned about this Iowa basketball team. Again, you're never as bad as your worst moments or worst game, and you're never as good as your best moments. But still, to have 2 games in a row where you lose by double digits, especially one of those games being at home, it would have been very worrisome. But nonetheless, Iowa stormed back behind Peyton Sandfort and Josh Dix. They both got hot. They both lost their conscience and just, had no conscience from beyond, just letting it fly. The ball was whipping around. Going around. It was nice. And it was good to see. And Iowa got some stops. They defended. I actually thought that this was not a bad defensive performance for Iowa. I think that they did. I'm just looking at my iPad here. I think that they did improve from their last game against Wisconsin, in which they allowed almost 100. I mean, how much did they allow? 120 plus points. Let me get this pulled up here. I mean, Nebraska is not a bad offensive efficiency team. I mean, they're ranked 75th. Now, their calling card, I would say, is more so their defense, as they are rated 12th in defensive efficiency. And I would say, as odd as it sounds, with Fred Hoiberg at the helm, who was more of an offensive player himself, his teams have always been fairly decently on the defensive side of the ball. So let's go back to the game. Iowa is storming back. They're getting stops. Peyton Sandfort, Josh Dix losing their freaking minds. And then Iowa has the lead. We're under 10 seconds to go, 76-73. It's the final possession. It's probably less time than that. It was probably like 5 seconds remaining. Nebraska's guy does a rip through, takes a big dribble, takes one dribble from about the half court line to the 3-point line. Anybody who has played basketball at a high level knows or has had a coach that does a drill centered around taking the least amount of dribbles as possible en route to whatever spot you're going. You can start at the 3-point line, you can start at half court, you can start full court, and the goal is to take as least amount of dribbles as possible. The thing, now that I am a sports official as part of my career, I find it interesting. Like, there are times, though, where you can take a big dribble and the ball can be, kind of hang on the hand for a couple of seconds, and in between you can take like 4 or 5, baby steps. And I've even seen, even in college, where a guy will take one big dribble. They won't take any more dribbles. They'll be right at the rim, and they'll take like 4 baby steps en route to the layup. It's very weird. It is. I mean, there are definitely, in every sport, there are unwritten rules. There are rules that everybody goes by. But I digress. I thought that Iowa thought that there was a travel. When I first saw it, and I saw Josh Dick's reaction and Peyton Sandfort's reaction, but that was not the case. Come to find out, they were trying to foul. And I don't know if Fran McCaffrey told the officials that they were going to foul or attempt to foul. I'd be surprised if he didn't. Coaches usually tell officials when they have a foul to give that they're going to foul. Now, you don't have to call a foul as an official just because a coach says that, okay? Now, it does put a lot of pressure on you if you don't end up calling a foul and your player attempted to foul, because the coach will definitely be unhappy with the no call. But you don't have to. And the first attempt from Peyton Sandfort was completely missed. I have no idea how he missed. I guess he was just shooting for error now. But, he did more than enough to get Iowa back in the game, so I can let that fly. And then Josh Dix, right before he was about to shoot, and he in his wind up for the shot, got him across the arm. Okay. Now, there was a lot of traffic there. There was a lot of bodies that were there. And officials, anytime there's a one-possession game under 10 seconds, they're gonna let a little bit more physicality occur. Okay. Really, they're only going to call a foul, and I would say this is mostly the case, although there are some officials that actually tighten up their whistle more the closer the game is and the less time there is. But that's not the norm. But there's a lot of traffic there. It's hard to see. Most officials are only going to call fouls that everybody in the gym knows is a foul. Okay. They don't want to be the reason that a team won or lost the game. Okay. In other words, the foul, you have to make it count. Make it something that everybody knows was what it was. With that said, Josh Dick's foul was very soft. I mean, he could have wrapped him up. He could have grabbed the jersey. He could have made it more noticeable for the official rather than just a tap across the arm. So I actually, as an Iowa fan, yes, it stunk. And by the way, there's no guarantee that even if Iowa got the foul, that somehow Nebraska, it wouldn't have worked in Nebraska's favor, and Nebraska ends up tying the game or win it, whatever the case may be. But as an official, objectively speaking, I'm okay with the no call. I don't think that the foul was egregious. And by the way, officials have the right to allow the offensive player, whoever that is, for whatever team it is, to advantageously continue play. Just like in soccer, you play advantage, okay? In basketball, this is probably done the least, but you can allow a guy to play through contact, minimal contact, if they are en route to something more advantageous. If they're able to play through it and continue their advantage, officials will let it go. So we get to overtime. Iowa dominates the overtime. They end up winning by 10 points. They scored 21 points in overtime. Nebraska scored 11. Nebraska just didn't have anything left in the tank. Overtime usually does favor a team like Iowa, who is more of an offensive firepower team. So let's look at the stats here. By the way, Hoiberg's son is on the team, has been for a while now. Josh Dix, 31 frickin' points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists. This guy, he's an animal. I am so vindicated about Josh Dix. I have said for a while that I think he's the most talented player Iowa has. I've told you guys time and time again, of basketball and football, basketball is a sport that I know much more intimately, much more deeply. I know talent when I see it. And Josh Dix, from the moment I saw Iowa land him, there are certain things. There's a smoothness. There's a game IQ that you see players have. Now, they may not have the confidence, they may not have the size, they may not, and those things can be developed, but there's kind of like the sauciness, the uncanniness to a basketball player that you can just see, and Josh Dix has always had that. I mean, the guy is super, super talented. Now, of course, he had his injury, and thankfully he hasn't been injured again, knock on wood. But I am so vindicated about him. I think he's Iowa's best player. I do. 31 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. Brock Harding had 7 assists, 4 rebounds, 8 points. Owen Freeman, 15 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist. Much better game from him. 8 rebounds, much better. That is what we need to see game in, game out. There is no reason Owen Freeman should not have minimum 5 to 6 boards a game. There's no reason. And rebounding is as much desire as it is talent. Peyton Sandfort, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 30 points. Little 30-piece. Great game from him, mostly in the second half. Iowa was without Drew Thelwell, which was a big loss. Drew has been very solid for Iowa this year, and he's a competitor. They would have missed him. They did miss him. So the fact that they were able to win without one of their starters against a quality opponent, I do think says a lot. Not that Lajai Dembele is a scrub or anything like that, but Lajai at this point in his career does not bring as much to the table as somebody like Drew Thelwell. He had 0 points and 3 rebounds, 1 assist. And towards the end, Iowa was going with Price Sandfort more so than and Seydou Traore than Lajai Dembele. Price Sandfort, 11 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Iowa even had Evan Bronze in there. So apparently Drew Thelwell tweaked his back before the game. So, not sure what happened with that. But it is what it is. So this is a good win, guys. Team stats, Iowa shot 47.5 compared to Nebraska's 46.5. That's just fine. Holding Nebraska below 50%, great. Shooting. 3-point percentage, Nebraska shot 39.1. That's a little, that's just okay. That's just enough. You do want to hold teams to below 40%. Preferably, I would say below 35% would be good. But 39, I can live with it. Nebraska, 12 of 22 at the free throw line for 54%. Iowa was 22 of 25 for 88%. Total rebounds, much better from Iowa. Let me see. Got to get this out of there. Getting a phone call. 38 to 45 in favor of Nebraska. Still, Iowa, I cannot tell you the last time Iowa won a rebounding battle, but much better. They did allow Nebraska to have far too many offensive rebounds with 18, but Iowa did win the defensive rebound battle, which is good. Usually it's been the other way around. Assists 23 to 14 in favor of Iowa. Steals 11 to 7 in favor of Nebraska. Turnovers 14 to 13. Iowa with one less turnover. So this is good, guys. Iowa is right back in the thick of things. I think Iowa is 52nd in the KenPom now. Man, my iPad sucks right now. So Iowa is 55th in the net ratings. They're up 4 spots. They're 1 spot behind Northwestern, who they beat. Penn State is ahead of them. And Nebraska's 36th. They were 33rd. And then obviously Wisconsin is ahead of Iowa. They're 24th. And then KenPom, Iowa is 52nd. With a offensive rating of 20th and a defensive rating of 124. So it's too bad. I really did think that their defense of efficiency would be a lot better this year. And at times it has, and the season's not done. But, man, that Wisconsin game really has set Iowa back in their defensive efficiency rating. So I thought that they had more athleticism this year. But I think a lot of it just comes down to desire and, kind of the culture that is built within the Iowa system. Defense is not the most important thing. I think Iowa obviously misses having a huge post presence. Owen Freeman is solid, but, Iowa misses like a really big block shot guy or, like a Melshawn Basabi or, even Luka Garza. He was pretty thick and a big body down there. Adam Woodbury at 7'1". So they definitely miss that. A lot of it does come down to rebounding. Iowa misses it puts a lot of pressure on their defensive efficiency when the opposing team is getting multiple second chance opportunities. It's hard at this level to defend for one possession. It's even harder to defend 2 times in a row and get a stop. And even though the total rebounding was better, Iowa still allowed far too many offensive rebounds against Nebraska. So Iowa is still in the thick of things, guys. We'll see kind of where things go from here. They have another home game against Indiana coming up. That's another must-win, very winnable game. If they can win that, they will definitely be squarely in the NCAA tournament conversation. They're squarely in the NCAA tournament conversation right now. But for shoots and gigs, I am going to look up the Bart Torvik situation. So Bart Torvik is actually pretty high on Iowa. Bart Torvik has Iowa 43rd in their rating system. And let's look at Teamcast. They are fourth in first team out. They're behind New Mexico, Vanderbilt, and BYU. Washington State, who they beat, they're ahead of. Northwestern, who they beat, they're ahead of. Let's see where Nebraska is at. I think they do have Nebraska. Yeah, Nebraska is probably squarely in the NCAA tournament. Let's see here. Yeah, Nebraska is an 8 seed. So, I do think for what it's worth, this shows that Iowa can, and I've already known this as we've seen other teams that are NCAA tournament teams, Iowa State, Michigan, Utah State, that Iowa has competed with, but they lost. Nebraska is squarely an NCAA tournament team, and Iowa defeated them by 10 points, albeit in overtime. Utah State is an 8 seed. Iowa lost to them. So that's kind of where we're at. So they're squarely in the NCAA tournament. This is actually wrong. It has Iowa 60th in the net. So I don't know how up to date this is. Iowa is probably up 1 or 2 spots on this. They might even be last 4 in with that up to date. Actually, let's see. Oh, it does have that. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Like I said, I don't think that this is completely updated. I don't think it, because it doesn't have Iowa's updated net rating in there. But Iowa is squarely in the NCAA tournament conversation. Thank you guys so much for watching. Still a lot of work to do. A lot of huge opportunities on the horizon coming up. I'll have you guys covered every step of the way. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment. You guys know the drill. And last but not least, DBAP. Don't be a pussy, Willow. In facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. I love you, Hawk fans. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.